cool, man. Hey, thanks for coming out today. Appreciate you swinging by.
My pleasure.
Yeah, how's your trip in Phoenix so far?
Love it.
Yeah?
I miss it. Although I was expecting warm weather. I left snowy Baltimore.
Okay.
Thinking, coming to Arizona. It was a little cold, but yeah, it's not bad. Overall, good trip.
I moved here from Michigan in November.
Oh.
And I did not expect to be cold like at all this winter, and everyone says you acclimate fast, and I didn't really believe them, but I'm feeling it already. It was like 50 degrees and I'm cold. Where I'm from, 50 degrees in February, people wear shorts and tank tops.
Yep.
I'm from far northern Michigan.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. And I moved here from Virginia.
Yeah.
So I lived in Virginia.
Okay.
And I moved here, and I moved in July, mid-July.
Okay.
Everyone tells you not to do, which I recommend not to do.
Okay.
And then I lived here for 8 years. So all three of my daughters were born here.
Yeah.
So I joke because my daughters wear flip-flops when it's cold outside,
Sure.
and they hate jackets. And it's like they are Arizona born and bred.
Yeah. What were you doing when you were here in Phoenix?
So I actually came here to work at IO Data Centers, which is a data center company right around the corner.
Yeah, right downtown, right?
Yeah. So I took a job there after I pivoted out of my government job.
Yeah.
And then took a job there, and I worked there for about a little over 2 years.
Okay.
It was crazy. We went from 254 employees to 610.
Wow, really?
And, my team was overseeing the onboarding of new employees. So we were
Okay.
averaging like 12 new hires a day.
Really?
Or a week, 12 new hires a week.
Okay.
It was insane.
Still impressive.
Yeah, it was crazy. And
Yeah.
and so I did that for 2 years, and then I decided to make the plunge into entrepreneurship about 4.5 years ago. So,
Cool, man. What can you tell me about what you're up to now?
So I would say I have full-time speaking. Speaking is kind of my full speak. I do consulting.
Okay.
I host 2 podcasts myself.
Nice.
I do a lot of content.
Yeah.
But speaking has been my full-time part for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm on the board of 4 startups that I help them from a strategic social advising side, a little bit of growth hacking, a little bit of that side of the fence. And
Nice.
then I have a couple clients that I've held on to that I do kind of one-off strategy. If they have a big event coming up, I help them kind of build strategy. But
Nice.
for the most part, it's speaking somewhere between 50, 60 times a year.
How'd you get into speaking?
So weirdly, I was working for the government.
Okay.
And, my boss came in, as politically correct as this sounds, and he's like, "You're the only non-white, gray-haired white person in our group.
Okay.
We want to make you the face." And
Oh,
he was
nice.
and he was like, "I want you to present at the Pentagon." I was like,
Oh, jeez.
"That's interesting."
Yeah.
And he was like, "We're going to send you to a boot camp," and this is 2006. In 2006, so he sent me to a 4-day kind of communications boot camp. They tell you not to talk with your hands and do a lot of stuff that I was the opposite, right? So but it was good.
I know I'm one of these guys.
Yeah, I talk fast, and but that for the next 4 years, I got to present to the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon every quarter, and so I got to talk a lot about change, a lot about cybersecurity. So I kind of got started then, and then I worked for the data center company here. And I became the face of their brand, so it was great because I got all these amazing speaking opportunities. Like AWS, Gartner, these amazing venues, great spots, because we were sponsoring, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, sure.
And then when I jumped on entrepreneurship, I kind of expected I didn't understand the speaking business at all.
Yeah.
And
I don't think anybody sort of does.
There's no recipe really. There's no recipe really.
Yeah. Right.
But and I couldn't get on the side stage of an event that I keynoted.
Okay.
Because I was on my own. I wasn't sponsored. They were kind of like, "Who are you?" I didn't do a very good job documenting. Believe it or not, at that point, I was more into kind of the role I was doing was kind of before I even realized what my personal brand was. It was like that piece, and so I had to pretty much start from scratch. In about 2013, I was like, well, I'm gonna try to do this speaking thing. I'm gonna try to speak more events.
Yeah.
And the hard part is you're doing a lot of stuff for free.
Yeah.
So you have to have something that pays the bills.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of how I got started. So I got started really early. I kind of blessed because speaking is something I figured out I really loved. But I've had kind of probably I've had all 3 different roles of a speaker, right? So like the idea where I did it in-house for my company, and then I represented my brand externally, and now I do it full-time for myself and kind of figuring out that piece. And it's been a wild ride because 2015, I didn't get paid for, I think I got paid for 2 speaking gigs the whole time, and it was probably like, $1,000 plus travel.
Right.
And then 2016 kind of things just started to take off, and like this year I'll do probably 3 events for free, and then everything else kind of is what pays my bills.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We were talking before we got started that you were featured in a few articles online that really helped grow your brand.
It was.
How did that all work out?
So weirdly, the thing actually that happened. I mean, people will talk about lists and people will talk about awards. But I have a list and an award that in 2014, January 2014, I got awarded the top 25 future social business leader by The Economist.
Nice.
And it was in The Economist. They did a full rollout, and then they had 25 of us that were on this group. And they sent us to different TED Talks around, so we had to sit front row.
Nice.
They sent us to all these events. We went to probably 5 or 6 events, and that changed everything for me because it not only allowed me to realize that what I was doing inside, people recognized was really good.
Okay.
But it also allowed me to figure out that I am really different at how I do things. Weirdly enough, I've never had a marketing job.
Okay. How do you think you're different?
So I'm different mainly just because my career, my background, my ability to be more transparent with a lot of things. I talk about ADHD, being diagnosed on stage. I'm not afraid to wear a backwards hat, crazy shoes. I talk about tattoos.
Yeah, cool.
And so for me, it was the thing that I was really good at growing up. I give my mom a lot of credit. She's like, well, how are you liking social media and like digital? And in 2013, I didn't like it at all. I thought social and the whole personal branding idea was painful. I remember it was like October-ish, and I was done. I was like, I'm tired of putting myself out there.
Yeah.
And it was because I was really focusing on what I thought other people wanted to know about me. And I would spend an hour for a Facebook post, and it was mind-numbing. Yeah. And I just hated it. And I remember the date, and I wish I had a picture of it and all that side, because I talk about it a lot. But November 2nd, 2013. Had that talk with my mom, kind of figuring out my life, and I went back and looked and said, man, what was I? I wasn't a great high school student, but I was president of my high school newspaper. I went to college, barely got into college, but I played hockey for all 4 years, assistant captain. I was president of my fraternity. And I was like, what was making me? What was I really good at? And I was really good at being unique, but also kind of being able to relate with everyone. Okay. And so that day, November 2nd, I wrote on my mirror in Sharpie, I just said, be yourself. And I said, that's what had got me where I was at. Yeah. And I kind of had lost that for a year online. And I think it's because of this world we live in. Sometimes you only see the good side.
It's so easy to focus on what you think people want, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that, I tell you, is... it's hard, and especially today's day and age. I think right now, 2018, transparency is extremely important, authenticity, trust, and I mean, trust is so hard to build, so easy to lose. Right. Like, you can lose it like the drop of the hat. So for me, that epiphany was, November 2013. I would say total followers on social media at that point, like 2,000 or so. Not really much, and I started putting myself out there. People started relating with me in ways I would have never imagined. I was getting business people like, oh, you're a dad of 3 girls. I'm a dad of 3 girls. Like, come on in. Yeah, come in. And I started to realize that it was a lot of my business, and still to this day, the truth, a lot of my leads, a lot of people that end up hiring me, they don't find me, as much as I love marketing, they don't find me via my website. They don't find me, oftentimes even not in my podcast. They find me, they relate with me through a different channel, even me talking about a different topic, maybe diehard Steeler fan. So like, nice. I read the amount of things that kind of came through, and then I've been blessed, lots of lists. I spent a lot of time that year, 2014, 2015, I made it my commitment that Twitter was my platform. And I was like, I'm going to build the best community that I can humiliate. And I spent,
how did it work out?
Amazing. It's still my favorite platform. Okay. I have, in my opinion, one of the best Twitter followings that there is. Nice. If I tell them, if I ask them to do something, I put something out there.
They're on it.
It's amazing. But I spent 2 years never asking them to go to my website, never sharing really my own content. It was more of like...
Is it focusing on the conversation and just sort of like... I always think of like social media as like being in a bar. If you go to a bar and you sit at the bar and you stare at your drink and you don't talk to anyone, you're not going to have a good time. But if you walk around and you talk to every single person, you're going to have the best time of all time, right?
Sure. And I treat social also as, Twitter especially, as a one-to-one conversation in public. Okay. Right? And so if you think of it that way, if you treat people one-to-one when they're replying and things like that, it's amazing how much that values. And I have a tagline I'm actually going to talk about on stage here. I just say, show you care. Okay. And people will say, like, how'd you get on Gary Vaynerchuk's radar? Or how'd you get... And I was like, well, I cared about his content. I cared about promoting and helping him to the point where he reached out to me and said, holy cow, thanks for all the help. Like, what can I do for you? And that, to me, that's how you stand out, because everyone's knocking on everyone's door. Everyone wants to get on everyone's radar. Yep. And if you're able to do that, if you're able to be so good at caring about somebody that they come to you, it's an easy game.
It's ideal, right?
It is.
That's cool. So I'm actually, I was saying before, I was super excited to see that you're coming here. I've been following your brand for 2 or 3 years now on Snapchat. I follow you on one of those lists. And, we were talking before we got going that 2018 seems to be like the big year for the personal brand. It's all over the internet, all the blogs, everything. And, where do you see like the personal brand going over the next 3 years? Because like 2 years ago to now, people were talking about every business sort of needs to treat itself as its own media company. Now it seems like every person, whether you're in business or not, kind of needs to do the same thing. Do you agree?
I agree. And I like the way that you say that. And I think, the reason the personal brand, I believe it's taking off the way it is because nobody trusts a logo, nobody trusts a business. And I work with big businesses like IBM, and they're like, we've been around for 65 years, everybody should trust us, they should know what we do, we don't. And we live kind of in this new culture where not only is change happening, but we want experiences, we want to trust, but we trust people, we don't trust logos. And so all of a sudden for brands, they started to realize, okay, the people that make up the company, which they've known the whole time,
Yeah.
are the reason they're great, right? That's like a tagline that's been around forever.
Yeah.
But now, like, why aren't they the face of your company? Why aren't they on your website? Why aren't they on your channels?
Yes.
You know, right now I'm taking over Thinkific's account, which is the online training platform, and they gave me access to it today for Instagram.
Nice.
So I'm doing Instagram stories live here,
Okay,
and it was funny because to me this is the epitome. And they said, "Hey Brian, you have a training course on our platform.
Yeah.
We love your story. We trust you. Go have fun with it for the day." And that ability to trust is a key. And I think the other reason personal branding is taking off is we've proven, and I think live video, I'm a live video junkie for sure. Live video has proven something probably more so than anything else, is that we like people in the human condition. We like people that aren't perfect, right? Like Facebook Live, a lot of, if you look at Facebook Live's growth, and even Periscope and some of these other apps that have been out there, it's all about, hey, you have to be okay. In my opinion, the most powerful phrase you can say on live video is, I don't know. Right. Someone asks you a question when you don't say it, but where else on the internet do we say I don't know? Yeah. We don't have it on our websites, we don't do it on social, and so all of a sudden live video proves something. It proved that we want to connect with people, no matter if it's B2B, B2C, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And not only do we want to connect with them, but we want to connect them in the most raw way. And I think, Zuckerberg, the fact that he went all in with live video, the guy's paving the path, and he said, hey, this is the closest way we can get in online to an offline world. Yeah. And that to me opened everyone's eyes, because now it's like, okay, why is influencer marketing working? It's because someone that we trust, right? Mm-hmm. It's that, and and a slide, I think probably my theme right now in 2018 is relatability is the future of marketing. Nice. And so relatability comes by personal brand, by connections, right? We don't relate with a logo. Oftentimes we don't even relate with someone that makes themselves feel elitist. Yeah. But if you look at like John Legere, CEO of T-Mobile, like he'll go jogging through the park every Friday on live stream or on Snapchat and giving away phones. And then he does a cooking show. And you're like, why would a CEO do a cooking show? And it's because we relate with him. Like he does his own, he loves cooking. Lots of people like cooking, right? Yeah. Or you get to be part of his life. And for me, the funny part that I always ask people is that, I was AT&T for 8 years. I couldn't tell you if it was a male or female CEO. Right. But with John Legere, I can tell you what he likes to eat, why he likes magenta everywhere. Yeah. And that relatability, in my opinion, really allows T-Mobile to stand out, right? And I think every brand, like if you're a small business and you want people to not buy a product on Amazon and come into your store, they do that because of the person that works at the store. It has nothing to do with your sales. It has nothing to do with how great your email marketing is. It's like, how can you humanize that? Because Amazon's great. 2 days in Arizona, you get like in a 1 day, which is like, I'm spoiled. Awesome. Yeah, I'm spoiled when I lived here. But it's that idea of like, how do you break down that wall? How do you shrink the distance? And I think it is a personal brand. It's that human interaction. But it's also scary because now you're putting yourselves on there, and we've seen this right now more so than anything in our lives. That there's a lot of baggage, a lot of bad, and we're gonna have to get used to that. I think we're gonna next 2 years, we're gonna start being a little bit more forgiving to what people's pasts are, and not chastising their entire future because we are exposing something. Because let's face it, probably even for you and I, like I'm glad Snapchat didn't exist in high school and college. God, I know. Thank God it did not exist in high school and college. But at the same time, when we say that, like there are people that I'm hiring that it did exist. Right. And so should I judge them based on the fact that I can now see that information? Yeah. When they couldn't see that on me, and so I think it's a weird space that we're at. Yeah. And I think it's exciting. I think transparency, and this is my tagline. Like, people talk a lot about transparency, and I'm probably more transparent than the majority of people, especially speakers. Yeah. But everything for me is risk versus reward. Okay. Hey, if you're going to put this out there, what's the risk? What's the reward? And if the risk outweighs the reward, you just don't do it, right? And I think that's, transparency sometimes gets thrown in as like, oh, that's how you build trust. And it's a great way of doing it, but transparency doesn't guarantee trust. One of the things that I started talking about a lot was a little bit of ADHD, but a lot of my tattoos and why I like personal branding and like even personalizing myself. Yep. And I lost 2 clients that month, like right away. Okay. And they were just like, hey, I don't want you representing my brand, and I was not ready for that. I wasn't comfortable enough in business to do that. But what I figured out was that if they weren't comfortable with who I was, the partnership wasn't going to work long term anyhow. For sure. So I think that's the other thing when I tell people, looking at personal branding, look at transparency, getting online. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, but also know that sometimes putting yourself out there is going to expose little things, the haters. But the nice part for me now is, it's kind of funny. I wish like in high school I learned this part of it, but like did I put everything out there? Like I put all of my vulnerabilities out there. I put my struggles. I went through a divorce, and I don't have like the people that want to hate or throw mud or the trolls. They have no ammo because I've put it out there and I own all of that. And so for me, sharing things, or I've cried on Snapchat when I lost a client last year, and the amount of people that reached out. I mean, I got 2 additional gigs because Salesforce. I was working with them on a project, and Friday night at 9 p.m. we were supposed to start on Saturday. They pulled the plug, and wrecked my world. And I got on Snapchat, and it was kind of like group therapy, and I was just like, what the hell happened? And people that watched that went until one guy told his boss, and another guy that was watching it, he was talking to his wife, and his wife's like, I'm gonna hire him to come speak to my people about this, real peace. So there's good side of it, but there's also, you have to kind of take the risk versus reward for sure.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, I think you're kind of like speaking like my entire language right now, because that's sort of the reason I'm doing all of this is it's not even necessarily about like what I'm trying to do with it. It's that I'm just enjoying doing it right now, And I talked about vulnerability and the ADHD thing. When I was 10 years old, I got diagnosed with Tourette syndrome and arthritis in the same year.
Oh wow!
I spent my entire childhood in high school trying to hide it and pretend like it wasn't there, and being a funny kid and acting out to make people like me, so they wouldn't tease me.
Right. For
you know what I mean? And then as I got older, that sort of goes away, and you kind of embrace it more, and you're like, well, like I'm 30 now. Now I'm 32, and it's still here, so why fight it, So I started a podcast 2 years ago. I called it Sore Joints and Twitches.
Oh, nice.
I was like, I might as well just call it that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You own it.
Yeah, for sure. And people started hitting me up like, hey, what's with the name? And I would talk about it more, and they're like, that's actually really cool. And then people would come on the podcast, and I'd have business executives and senators and congressmen come on, and we would talk about their stories.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, they had one plan for their life, and life takes left turns, and they deal with it, and they end up in really cool places. But the biggest common denominator between all of them was that whatever little issues they had in their life that they thought were hang-ups, really embracing those is sort of what brings people to you. And
it's because they can relate, right? Like that's that relatability. I mean, I use that word. I feel like every day now, because relatability is because we don't even share the exact same struggle, right? Like so, I had someone yesterday at the event I was speaking at come up to me and was like, hey, my son was diagnosed with epilepsy, and they were talking to me a lot about like that in depth, and she was like, I was crying because I hope one day he's as comfortable as you are.
Yes.
And she's like, I'm gonna put that up there, and like you're on stage, and you travel the world, and you're willing to put your vulnerability up there, and to me that's that relatability, right? It's you don't even have to share the exact same pain point, and I also think in the world, and I'm going to say this on stage, I survey every audience. I have one question, no matter what my speech is. I ask if they know any brand that's perfect, and nobody raises their hand. Right. And I ask if they know any people that are perfect. And sometimes someone will throw out like Mother Teresa, but I was like, nah, she wouldn't even call herself perfect. And then I remind them, I'm like, okay, if we believe no one's perfect and no brand's perfect, why have we tried for years to create perfect content, perfect video, perfect audio and podcasting? And usually it's like a light bulb. People are like, oh man, I'm like, and so that's where I kind of look at things where we're moving forward. And I love that you're documenting, because that's to me was a big light bulb as well. I went from, I create a lot of content, and create being the word. I started doing a lot more documenting, so I wouldn't go as crazy. And so people will tell me all the time, like, Brian, how do you do Snapchat and Instagram? And you're doing live video, and you have 2 podcasts, and you have kids. And for me, a lot of those other pieces are documenting, right? So it's it's capturing the moments,
right?
Like turning a video into a podcast. And I've turned my piece into, like, I can do like an hour and a half of content creation a week, and I can turn it into 5 pieces of content.
That's awesome.
And that's where I've figured it out. But it's about documenting. I wish I would have documented when I was speaking at I.O. and I had these big gigs. And at the time it was kind of like, who talks to their phone and who like documents things. And now we're in a fun world, because I think that also gives I work with a lot of executives, and they're super successful, and they haven't documented their lives, and they're like, well, if I leave this company and I want to write a book, or I want to speak, or whatever it is, they're like, how do I tell my story? And I'm like, well, first of all, we're going to start right now. We're going to document everything from this forward.
Yes.
And it doesn't even matter if you push it public, right? I've been working with a gentleman, and he records now, just a YouTube recap of his day every day.
Okay.
And,
that's cool.
And he's keeping it private right now, so I can see it on his channel. But for him,
it's a new diary, right?
It is. It is, and we're going to use it for like his book one day.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing collateral for him, like when he's done 100 of them, and he's going to look back at number 1.
Yep.
And so I think that's the fun part, right? It is, and it's we don't have film, but we can, memory's cheap, and you can do a lot of things. But I think even my daughters, I love the fact that I take hundreds and thousands of pictures, because back in the day that wasn't even the case.
Right.
And I think that's part about personal branding too, is if you're able to document your journey. This is my thing. If you talk about what you do, so if you pound your chest, hey, I got an award, hey, I'm speaking at all these events, everyone's like, shut up, I don't care. But if you say, hey, come along with me, or hey, this is how I did it, right? Like I love to be like, hey guys, I got on this stage, and it was because I had this relationship, and then someone vouched for me, and I bring you along. Well, now you get to learn with me, right? Right. And so instead of like being, I would say, invoking jealousy or kind of pounding your chest, you're like, hey, I'm blessed to have this opportunity. I want to help you. I want to help you rise the tide, and that's why. I mean, I'm very big like that. Even with like at one point I had a bunch of web pages on my site that were private because they were things I sent to like event professionals that would come in. I would say, and eventually I was like, well, why don't I make these public and share them with people that like want to learn what I was doing? And it was like light bulbs. And the amount of people were like, wait, you shared all that out there? Like, what if everybody else is doing it? I'm like, well, if they do. We all put our things up there, and I'm different than they are, and we do it a different way.
Exactly.
And I think that's personal branding is where it's moving towards. Is the thing I don't like people saying is like, hey, Brian, I'm doing exactly what Gary Vaynerchuk does. Like, verbatim.
I had that conversation this morning.
And they're like, no one knows me. I can't stand out. I'm like, because you're in his exhaust.
Yes.
And it also is painful. It's a crap load. I mean, Gary's way the exception, but like, even if you're mimicking someone else, and if someone reaches out to me and says, Brian, give me some advice. My first advice is like, look yourself in the mirror. What do you like talking about? What do you like doing? And then, my favorite thing with Gary is oftentimes, any of those that I really look up to is I focus on why they do things and how they do it, not what. Like, hey, what he creates all this. I don't have a team like that, but why? Like, what's his underlying goal? Oh, wait, he's been talking about Crush It for the last 2 years, and he's been documenting this crazy journey where he works 18 hours a day, and all of a sudden he brought us on a journey that where the book was coming out, people weren't buying one copy, they're buying 30.
Yes.
Right? And it was because he did that. And so like, when you think back about, okay, for me, like I'm going to launch a book this year, and I said, you know what, I'm going to bring people way more exclusive this year so that they feel this piece. And when the book comes out, they're going to feel that same part. So I think that's the tough part, because a lot of people look at the what and they try to copy it, and then they're just part of the exhaust.
Copying it seems like the easiest thing in the world.
It does.
Like it's a carbon copy. I'm just going to do this and it'll work. But when you're faking it like that, it's way harder.
So
just being yourself and doing what you want to do and talking about what you want to talk about, just being natural and just speaking is really the way to do it, right?
For sure. And when someone asks, usually it's like, where do I start? Which platform should I do? This is my advice always: is find where you're most comfortable first, and create create on that one place. So if it's podcasting, or maybe it's blogging, maybe it's video, maybe it's live video, whatever it is, find what you like, get in a routine, and then the second part is now figure out where the audience you want to reach is. And most people skip that part. They go and say, okay, hey, the people that I want to reach are on Snapchat. I'm going to start doing Snapchat stories. And I had an executive tell me this, and he's like, I want to coach the younger generations. I'm going to get on Snapchat. Horrible on Snapchat, uncomfortable with holding the phone by himself, but one of the smartest guys I've ever met. And I was like, well, you know what? Let's push Snapchat back. You're great at kind of just talking. Let's just have conversations, and we put video up and have these conversations. And my mind would be blown because, and he was like, wait a second. And I'm like, well, now that you're getting comfortable here, let's transition to that how that would work in Snapchat. That's where he was going. And so I think you have to remember, because if you don't do it where you're most comfortable, you'll never press the button. You'll make excuses, and you'll get so discouraged. You're just like, well, this wasn't for me. Like, everybody tells me like, oh, I don't like live video. I'm like, well, live video might not be perfect for you, but where did you start before that? And like, well, I haven't really started anywhere. I'm like, well, why did you jump to the most, the live and raw video, of all of them? And so I think that's probably the number one advice I like to give is like, figure out where you're most comfortable first, and then kind of take the second place to find out where everybody else is.
Awesome, man. That's just great. So today we're here at Digital Summit Phoenix. How many digital summits? First one, or have you?
So I've been an attendee to 3, first time speaking.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I'm closing keynote and first time speaking. But we kind of shadowed last year. A couple of places that the summit was at, I was also at, speaking at different events.
Sure.
So a lot of my friends have been speaking here for a couple of years. So I've been sneaking in and watching a lot of people. So I'm gonna do a bunch this year. So I'm excited to this is the kickoff. So in the area where I used to live. So
that's pretty appropriate, right?
Yeah, it worked out well.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on and doing this. And it's nice to meet you. And
nice to meet you.
We'll keep watching and we'll watch for that book.
Yeah, keep plugging away. And I appreciate the support, for sure.
Right on, man. Thank you.
Cheers.